Have you ever been to a car garage before and just completely fell in love with a car? Did you look at it and think, that is the car for me? I did once, years ago, and I really want to share this experience, mainly to raise awareness of what not to do when you are blinded by your dream car. Welcome back to my channel. I'm finally uploading. Hooray. I can't even, I've got no excuses, I've had no motivation. I saw my subscribers going up, my views going up, and honestly, that is what has given me the kick up the backside to actually sit down and create some content for you guys, because quite clearly you like the stuff I post, which honestly means a lot. I couldn't even imagine that I would be at 240 subscribers. I appreciate each and every one of you. I plan to keep creating content. I'm sorry it's not been consistent. Hopefully, as the weather gets nicer, spring is soon upon us, we can get rolling again with the channel. Now, I want to take you back probably about 12 years ago now, when I was young and naive and all I wanted was a fast car. Don't we all? Now, I was very much dumb, to put it quite frankly. I had no idea the sort of things to look out for when buying a car. I didn't even have the money to buy a car. But I had the dream, right? It was a dream of owning a Vauxhall Corsa VXR in blue. Every time I saw one of these cars, it was just one of those moments where I just got really excited. I was like, I want that car and one day I will own it. Now, I took that too far one day when I visited a garage. Now, for reasons, I will not name this garage, but I'm going to say a lot of things that will hopefully make people aware of what not to do when going to see a car. Now, at the time I was driving a black Ford KA. It was actually my first car, and I couldn't tell you how long I'd been driving it, maybe about between 1 and 2 years. Obviously, I've been a petrol head for as long as I can remember. But that changes when you start driving. You have all these cars you wish you could own, but when you actually start driving, it becomes very different, and your dream cars can just switch up. I loved these cars to the point that I must have been doing some online shopping, as I did. Always looked at cars that I couldn't afford, and I found one that was within, I don't know, a 5-mile radius. Now, bearing in mind, I'd booked no appointment. I hadn't called, emailed, anything like that. I turned up to this garage and I immediately... So I want to paint a picture of this car garage. So you drive in and you're immediately in the car lot. Picture a car park, right? And every single car in that car park is parked within inches of each other. Bonnet to bonnet, side to side, back end to back end. If you wanted to get a car, let's say out of the middle of this car lot, they would have to move the whole, there would have to be a lot of movement of cars. And that's what it looked like. It almost looked like an abandoned car lot, if I'm going to be completely honest. The cars weren't in the best condition, dusty, dirty, just not very appealing. But anyway, I obviously overlooked all of that. And I immediately saw that blue VXR sticking out like a sore thumb and immediately went over to it. I think I was looking at it for about 10 to 20 seconds tops, and this is typical, and a salesman walked over to me. Now, bearing in mind, I hadn't even walked around the car. I mean, I couldn't really get round. That's how close the cars were parked together, but I saw the front driver's side of the car. I'd already noticed a scuff on one of the wheels. Again, didn't really bother me because I just saw the car and wanted it. And I think the salesman could see how eager I was, because I wasn't very good at hiding it. And instead of the usual things a salesperson would do, like tell you more about the car or walk around the car with you, even get the keys and show you inside the car, offer you to, I don't know, I would say offer a test drive, but looking at the state of it all and where the car was located, I could not see them moving a hell of a lot of cars for me to test drive something when I had not booked an appointment. You know, despite all that, the sales guy took me into his little office area, and I can't remember exactly what happened, but I don't even think, I mean, I wouldn't have known to, but he didn't show me any service history. I didn't know how many owners it had. Bearing in mind, this is just a car that I liked. I saw it, I wanted it, that's it. And this salesman could see just how excited I was. And I'm not even joking when I say that it had probably taken about between 10 and 20 minutes for me to actually sign a contract for a deposit. Now, when I was sat with this salesman, I wasn't exactly speaking confidently. I wasn't speaking like someone who knew she was making a good decision. I made it very clear that I wasn't very sure. You know, I hadn't spoken to my dad yet, and my dad is always someone that I go to when it comes to cars because he knows loads about buying cars and he knows the things to look out for. He didn't even know I was there. So, you know, knowing this, the salesman still proceeded to sell me the car, essentially. He knew that I didn't have much money, because I was honest about that as well. I said, you know, I don't even know how I'm going to fund this. And that's when he started talking finance and, you know, stuff to really persuade me to want this car even more. And yeah, so before you know it, I'd signed, so I didn't even read, and this is what pains me the most. I didn't even read the paperwork. I just signed. And that, now I look back now, right, I'm nearly 32 years old. I look back now and it makes me feel quite sick how I could have been that naive and silly. So, you know, the purpose of this video is not to be 100% blame on this company. Obviously, I made the decision, you know, I was the one that signed the paperwork. I was the one that essentially made the deal. But the fact that the salesman could see how hesitant I was, how worried I was, and still allowed me to sign paperwork, it just, honestly, it baffles me. Anyway, when I'd signed the paperwork and I knew that the car was going to be delivered to me within the next few days, I could not contain my excitement. It was a feeling of like, it was almost like adrenaline. I felt sick, but with excitement. I was physically shaking. And I will remind you again that they had got me to sign a contract, bearing in mind I had not driven the car. And that's something I want to keep reiterating, because who on earth would buy a car? Well, people do, because some people aren't bothered, but who would buy a car without even test driving or knowing any history, anything like that? I didn't even know my insurance, but I wouldn't have even known how much it was to tax, how much it was to insure. I didn't know any of that. I hadn't done any research. Anyway, the drive home was about 15 minutes. And I can't remember exactly what happened, apart from I had a mild panic attack. We'll say mild. It was quite extreme, because I knew that I had to tell my dad. And when I did, obviously he was very angry at me. I'd done something very silly. My dad has always said to me, you know, come to me for advice, come to me for guidance, because I don't want you making a bad decision. And I did exactly that. So obviously we were going to cancel it. I think I'd got myself, obviously all I'd done was pay a deposit. I'd actually paid it at this point as well. I just want to also say that I'd paid the deposit. And immediately, I'm not even exaggerating, it was within half an hour, my dad rang up the company and said, look, she came in, she was, you know, she had her heart set on the car, she didn't know what she was doing, she didn't even get to drive the car, all this, and they basically said, no, it's non-refundable deposit. Now, I do understand that this is a lot of companies' policies, but I wasn't made aware of this at all. Again, something that I wasn't advised of. He saw how hesitant I was, but still allowed me to make, I think it was a £250 deposit. Now, the fact that I couldn't even get, obviously the whole thing was cancelled, but I couldn't even get my deposit back within half an hour, considering, I don't know, it's difficult because if it's a policy, it's a policy, but they should really make you aware of that. They should say, look, I can see you're hesitant. You know, if you want the car, have the car, but the deposit is non-refundable and you need to be sure before you put deposit down. That's how I see a decent salesperson being. I didn't get any of that from this guy. He didn't give me any time to really think. Almost a little bit pushy, actually. Sort of did the typical, oh, well, the car won't sit for ages. It's a very good example. Someone's going to buy it. Someone will snap it up. And naturally, if you're anything like me at that age, I didn't want it to go. I wanted that car. So, yeah, unfortunately, I lost £250. Now, my dad took it further. He actually went to the car garage himself. And they, instead of being reasonable people, instead, and I quote this, the guy, I don't know if it was the manager my dad spoke to. It wasn't the sales guy, I don't think. He did speak to the sales guy, but obviously management have the final say. Their words were, I'm not a charity. He either said, I'm not a charity, or he said, I'm not an effing charity. Either way, it was a bit aggressive. And when my dad threatened to take it further, they got out one of their, I don't know who he was, what his role was there, but he was a big, muscly guy that they brought out, basically to intimidate my dad, to say, look, you're not going to win this. And it just goes to show what type of garage they were, really. It's not even just the fact that, you know, if your deposits are non-refundable, that's fine. It's the principle, it's the, I don't know, they blamed me, and obviously I do take full accountability. I was very stupid, and I know that, but yeah, it was honestly such a horrible experience, and I just felt like, or feel like to this day, they're a very nasty company to deal with. And to be honest, when I have looked at reviews on the company, even to this day, they don't get very good reviews. And people have said before how they feel pressured into making a purchase because that's how pushy the salespeople are. And, you know, I never actually ended up having a Corsa VXR. I actually ended up having the limited edition Corsa that sort of had the styling pack on, very similar to VXR. Power was obviously nowhere near a VXR. It was a 1.2. VXRs are about 1.6, 1.7. But I've always been impulsive when it comes to cars. Still to this day, I need my dad's help if it comes to buying a car, because I can honestly admit that I see something and I want it. And, you know, many people are the same. It clouds your judgment. You know, you see something's put in front of you and you're like, I want that. I do not care how I get it. I want it. And actually, it's not really a similar experience, but it's made me think now, talking about this. When I was looking for the Mark 6, obviously there's very limited Mark 6s around because they're rare. And when you do find one, it's most likely a Japanese import. And there was a garage that I was in contact with in Birmingham somewhere. And it was a black Mark 6R import. And it had low mileage, you know, everything on paper looked great. But my dad, you know, we were actually planning to go and see it. And my dad noticed something in one of the photos. And this will make people aware as well, if you're ever looking at buying, it's not even just an import, a car in general, something to look out for. He noticed that, so I think the car was around 30-something thousand miles, I can't remember, it was low. And my dad noticed that the leather seats looked very worn. Now, I don't have a photo of it, but if you picture, I mean, a lot of you will know what leather looks like over time when it's had a lot of wear. These seats looked like they'd been worn a lot. And my dad made a point. he said, you know, if it's not been driven that much, how are the seats that worn? And yeah, at the time I was like, it's something I've never like noticed before. But then I just thought, well, it's an import. Maybe when it was over in Japan, it was hot, and maybe the leather just deteriorated quicker. I don't know. I don't know what I'm on about, but I guess I was just trying. I was in a bit of denial, and I'd already set my heart on this car already. But then my dad did some research, and I remember this was actually, I think it fell on Mother's Day because it was shortly before my birthday. And he sat me down, and he knew what he was going to say would disappoint me because I had my heart set on it. But he told me he did some research. Now, he, I think, researched the company, and he actually found, so it was the guy I was talking to, about coming to see the car. He found out that him, and it was his full name, so we knew it was him, he had a history of selling cars with false mileage. Basically, they'd rolled the mileage back. And again, I just felt really stupid. I was like, that was another, like, if I didn't have my dad, that would have been another bad financial mistake. And it's just crazy. Like, if my dad hadn't have done the research, we wouldn't have known. Anyway, this company, I think they'd changed their name. I think what they did was they would sell cars, they'd get done for it, and then they would change their name and, you know, do business under a different name, essentially. And yeah, this guy kept pushing for me to come and see the car, and I would just make an excuse, like, you know, change my mind, or, you know, I didn't want to just call them out on it because I didn't feel safe doing that. You know, they seem like they would be quite, I don't know what the word is, but maybe not so nice about it. And then, yeah, my dad sat me down and he said, you know what, you're going to find the car. You will find that car, and it might even be through someone you know. There will just be, you'll put something out on social media and someone will message you and say, I've got the car for you. And it was that very next day that I had a message from a guy who followed me on Instagram. We followed each other, and he said, I can't remember the exact message, but are you still looking for a Mark 6? I was like, yes. He had, well, it's not him. He said his brother-in-law is thinking of selling his Mark 6. So it wasn't for sale or anything, he's thinking of it because he wanted an RS3. And I was like, oh, okay. And I was trying not to get my hopes up about this because I didn't want to be disappointed again. Because I literally cried a lot over the last car. And I was like, okay, what colour? Blue. Right, tick number 1. So I'm getting a bit more excited here. Okay, is it manual or DSG? I ideally wanted DSG. I know a lot of people out there are like, oh no, you should get manual, but I like DSG, and that's just how it is. He said, yes, it's DSG. I was like, oh, okay. Now, the only downfall was that it was an import, and I think we were a bit worried about going for an import because of the fact that if you don't have the service history, you don't know what's happened with that car. He said it was an import. However, he bought it, and I researched the company he bought it from. They were a very reputable company, amazing reviews, and they gave him a lot of paperwork with the car. But he also said you can do your own check on, I think it's called CarVX. I mentioned it in one of my first videos about buying an import car. And it costs £25 for a report, and it will give you the full service history from Japan. So I thought, okay, well, that's something to consider. The car had only done, I think, 36,000 miles. It was a 5-door, pristine condition. He'd kept it relatively stock. There was a stage 1 on it, but he'd got it done by Artec Performance, which is the only place I would go for getting my car remapped. So he had all the paperwork for that. He'd kept covers on. It had wingback seats, and now that was something I was looking for as a bonus. Like, they're so rare. I genuinely didn't think I would find a car that had those. I thought it would just be the standard seat. So that was another, like, green flag. But yeah, it was a stage 1. And, you know, with my Scirocco, I had that as a stage 1. So ideally, I was looking for a car that had been mapped, but I only want stage 1 because I think anything from 2 onwards, it's just very risky. So things were looking good, but again, I didn't want to get disappointed. I didn't want to get my hopes up and just, you know, because it wasn't even for sale. Yeah, so next I ran my dad and tried to contain my excitement, but I said, oh my God, what you said yesterday has happened. Cut a long story short, did all the checks, it all was amazing. Full service history, the mileage was legit. The only thing it didn't confirm is how many owners it had. So it's the only thing I don't know about the car is how many owners it's had. But I mean, the car is in such good condition, it's just insane. And yeah, asked for photos, videos. The guy who owned it was like obsessed with the maintenance, keeping it clean. He'd done all his own work on it, done the like the sealant at the bottom, which is what imports don't have, because their roads over there are not like our crap roads. They're clean, and to be on UK roads, you got to get the underneath sealed off, otherwise it's prone to like rusting. He'd even done that. Like Michelin tyres, honestly, just the most ideal car. And yeah, within a few days, really, it was a done deal. And I think it was a few days after my birthday I collected it. Even my dad, when he first saw it, he was like, yeah, you're having that car. So, you know, we all make mistakes. And it takes, you know, I say it takes making, it's some mistakes you don't want to make, but it does take making a mistake to learn from it. And I would say now I know a lot of different things to look out for, especially from watching, like I watch a lot of Matt Armstrong videos on YouTube and Mark McCann, and it does make you more aware of, God, people can really go to extreme lengths to hide things, even if maybe a car's been previously crash damaged, which is why you would want to do your car vertical checks and stuff like that. With a Japanese import, it was difficult because it didn't have any history on there that it could get, because it wasn't a UK spec. That's why CarVX was very, very helpful. But it's crazy how, you know, how many cars do you think you look at? If you're looking on Auto Trader, Facebook, Gumtree, wherever you look for your cars, how many do you reckon are truthful? Or do you reckon a lot of them just, they lie to make sales? And it's a very scary world we live in, because, you know, you're making that financial commitment. And if that car isn't what you think it is, you've lost out. And you might end up spending a hell of a lot of money to sort out any problems it's got or may have. Don't get me wrong. Even if this car that I've got now is well looked after, it's been, you know, kept up with its maintenance, it doesn't mean something can't go wrong. However, it's really good to have a good service history on a car. I think you can't go wrong really if you keep up with maintenance. Things do happen and things can go wrong regardless. But I definitely recommend getting a bulk standard car. When I say bulk standard, I mean like I could have got, let's say for example, I went for a UK spec, stage 3, 7 owners. What are you likely to get with a car like that? You're likely to get problems. And I think a lot of people, they just want more power, they want more speed, and they don't really think about the implications of that. And it makes car selling worse. You know, that person has to go and sell their car, and they know the problems that it has or will have. 9 times out of 10, that's why they're selling it. You know, if you've got a car that's had 7 owners, you've got to think, okay, if that's had 7 owners in the space of 3-4 years, why are people getting rid of that car so early? It's very good to know stuff like this when you buy a car. And yeah, I've learnt these lessons the hard way. But I always recommend, if you've got anyone you know, whether it's a family member, a friend, even someone you work with, someone knows their cars and you're looking at buying a car, always run it by them, because it's worth it. They might spot something that you cannot. So yeah, that's my, well, it was originally just about the first story, but then we got on to the Mark 6. But yeah, that came up in my mind while I was talking about the other garage from years ago. So, I mean, yeah, I even, still to this day, I overlook things. But I also think there is a lot out there that people won't be aware of, and maybe this video can help someone. You know, I've heard quite positive feedback on some of my videos where I talk about the Mark 6 and what to look out for, and, you know, yeah, it seems to have helped people when it comes to buying an import. So, yeah, I think I'm going to stop rambling on now. But honestly, if you're still here watching, thank you so much. I'm going to start looking at ideas for my next video. I already know what it is that I would like to do, so stay tuned for that. Again, if you're new here and you like this video and you want to see more of what I can bring, please subscribe. If there's any videos you'd like to see me do, if there's anything you'd like me to talk about, please leave feedback in the comments, because it really helps me to know what you guys want to see, basically. So yes, have a lovely week, because I'm filming this on a Sunday, Mother's Day in fact, and I'll see you again very soon. Take care.